Hi, and welcome. Today, Chase, we're going to talk about required minimum distributions and specifically changes to the required minimum distribution. So briefly, for those who don't have them already, what are they? What are RMDs, or required minimum distributions?
The required minimum distributions is a rule by the government, and really the impetus behind the rule is they don't want you to leave your money in your retirement accounts for your entire life, right? They want their tax dollars because you haven't paid taxes on that money.
Right.
So that at a certain age 72 now, you're actually required by the government to take a certain percentage out of those retirement accounts, pay taxes on that money, and then you could do with the money what you would like.
Yeah, so let me jump in. Remember, we're only talking here about traditional IRAs, individual retirement accounts. It applies to other type of retirement accounts like SEPs. If you have one, you know what it is. SEPs, things like that. And of course, 401ks, right, if you're in the government, a TSP. But any of these traditional retirement accounts where you haven't paid the taxes yet, right? You've never paid tax on this money. It's been growing tax deferred.
Right.
And the idea was you would use it in retirement and pull it out and pay taxes then, hopefully at a lower tax bracket, right, Chase?
Exactly.
But a lot of folks don't need the money in retirement. So if they had their way, they would just leave the money in there tax deferred their whole life, never pay tax on it, and then leave the tax bill to their heirs.
Right.
The government, if I hear you right, is saying, we want you to take out at least some so that we can get our tax dollars.
Exactly. And it's important to note that if you want to do a Roth conversion, that's a big buzzword in our industry right now. It's important to note that that money that you're required to take out, your required minimum distribution, cannot be converted to a Roth. If you want to do a Roth conversion, you'd have to take additional funds above that required minimum distribution.
Yeah, and if you want more information on Roth conversions, you can reach out to us, or we've got another video that talks about that specifically. So we won't focus on that today.
Exactly.
But what today's about is that there's been some changes, right? Now that you understand what required minimum distributions are, let me give you very briefly, and then you can talk about the change, Chase. That originally, the way these RMDs were set up was, up until a few years ago, you didn't have to take a required minimum distribution until, get this, until the year you turn 70 and a half. Now, why 70 and a half? Nobody knows.
That sure created some confusion.
It did. So, but we won't get into that because they changed that. Several years ago, they changed it, and now they said you can wait all the way up until your age 72. So the year you turn 72 is the first year the government says, like it or not, you're going to have to take a small withdrawal.
Yep.
Now, again, the takeaway here is they're not saying we're taking that money out in taxes. They're saying you just have to withdraw the money.
Right.
Pay taxes on the withdrawal, and then you're free to do with the money whatever you want. Now, you can't put it back in an IRA, right? But you can reinvest it in a regular account, or you could spend it on a trip, or do anything you want. So we've gone from 70 and a half to now you can wait till 72.
Yep.
Right? And what's the big change as we've jumped to 72? That's been a couple years, but what's the change this year?
Yeah, so in 2022, they actually tweaked the percentage that you actually have to take out of your account. So the way that the required minimum distributions work is you have to take a set percentage based on your age. And as we discussed, age 72 is the first year you have to take it. So before 2022, that percentage was 3.9% that you had to take out of your account.
So let's just paint a picture of that, if you don't mind. Let's say that you have in your IRA $100,000. If that required minimum distribution, as you had said, at 72 was 3.9%, you would have to take out $3,900. You have to withdraw $3,900 from the account, and then you're taxed on the $3,900. So if you had to pay your 12% tax bracket, it's 12% of $3,900.
Exactly.
Right? Now you're free to, after taxes, to do whatever you want with the rest of that $3,900.
Right. So what they did in 2022 is they actually reduced that percentage slightly. So now you actually only have to take out 3.65% of that $100,000 in your example. So now instead of taking out $3,900, we'd be taking out $3,600 or $3,650 to be exact, out of that account. We are taxed on that, and then to your point, Dave, we could use the money for whatever we wanted to.
You can reinvest it, just not, you can't put it back in the retirement account.
Right.
Now, why is that a good thing? A lot of folks like this. Well, if you don't need the money to live off of, the longer you can leave in that account, one theory goes, the less you're paying taxes on, right? And you can pass the taxes on to the next generation if that's something you don't mind doing.
Right.
So if you have to take out less, your tax bill's less.
Right.
And if you don't need the money, you just assume leave it in there. So that's why folks like this new step. Why did the government do it? It's the government's acknowledgement, frankly, that we're living longer.
Yeah.
So they're adjusting the timetable for withdrawing the money because they're assuming you're going to live longer than they thought you would live 10 years ago.
Yeah, so that's our video today on required minimum distributions. Click the button below, subscribe and like, and we'll talk to you soon.